People of the internet, welcome. Painting with Commentary, Nolzur Marvelous Miniatures, Young Bronze Dragon. I'm GMA Tank. This is episode 16, Kalina, Lady of the Blue. Let's get into it. Base on this one, I wanted to do a coastal base. I used a polystyrene foam. You can pick that up from Home Hardware, Home Depot, Lowe's, any of the hardware places. As you can see, I glued it to the base and used a STYRO cutter, which is a nice, easy way to make cuts in this sort of stuff without having to use a knife. And there we go. So glued it on the base. Now I'm using the knife. Safety first. Use your gloves, people, just like I do. Mine are invisible, but you get the idea. I'm using this knife to trim it because I wanted to make a slope, right? The coast area on the top, on the left there, is going to be high and that's low. Now I'm using this to make like a ripple effect like you would find in ocean from the waves, and then I used my toothbrush to clean up all the foam. Some ZANDARI dust for the base because it's a kind of sand, and now time to base it with some stones. So I use my garbage brush to spread the glue around, and I have two different colors of sand. I have some white sand I got from Michael's Craft Shop, and I like that because it's nice and clean because that's the sandy beach on the top. And then I use some regular old sand which I got from Kijiji from some guy. It's Citadel brand sand, $10 for some sand. Give me a break. Whatever, it was on Kijiji. I got a deal on it. So I spread more glue, and I use this Citadel Elite sand, which you could find on your driveway, I'm sure, or whatever sand you have. So now I have a two-tone sand. One looks wet, one looks dry. Now I'm going to use my Michael's Natural Baby Rocks. I love these things. I used them in videos before. Glue them on there. And some of this moss that you can get from craft stores, that'll be nice seaweed. So I glue a couple of little pieces on that in the underwater section. Some reindeer moss as well as twigs, a couple different colors of it. And then I used a PVA glue blended with water mix to paint all over that, which is not shown in the video, but it just holds it all together. Now realistic water from Woodland Scenics. I added a little bit of Citadel Drakenhof Nightshade mixed in for tinting. And as you can see, just pour it in gently. I use masking tape around the edge to hold it in place. Let that shit dry. It's going to take a while. So now onto the dragon. You can see this dragon's wings are stupidly close together. Now maybe that's the way they wanted, or maybe that's just the way they packaged it. I didn't like it them that tight. So with my trusty hairdryer or my Jamberry nail hairdryer, you can use whatever you have. Just don't get something that's too hot that will melt the plastic or cause like burn scorch marks or browning. But look at how I've been able to, just by warming it up with that little mini heater. Now this is time lapse, but still 3 minutes of warms, and look at that. I can pull those wings apart pretty much. Of course I don't go that far, but I put a little curl in them and I dunk it in the water. You can see off to the left there when I'm ready. Time to paint. Again, you can see some painting marks on the wings. I was trying different brass and bronze colors to find the color scheme that I wanted. And I decided I was going to go with brass scorpion everywhere on his meat, or her, I should say. Sorry, Kalina. On her meat, on her muscles, on her scales, everywhere but her underbelly is going to be brass scorpion. As you can see, more brass scorpion. And with these videos, I obviously cut them down. But I'm just literally, I put a thin, I use a lot of water, not a lot of water, but thin your paints, folks, just like Duncan at Games Workshop says. Put it on your wet palette, add some water to it, make it nice and go on nice and smooth. Brass scorpion, I think it looks like a really cool brassy coppery color, and we'll play with it more a little later. So now we are, time for some more. What is it? Yeah, brass scorpion. I mean, I'm literally painting the whole model. This is like Pandora, the gold dragon. The whole thing was Oronox gold, right? That's okay, because I'm going to find out later. You can, and that green, of course, is liquid green stuff. I had some cracks to fill in. It wasn't too bad on this model, but anytime you see green on my painting videos, I don't like to film that because unless it's a really cool job or there's like really big cracks, it's pretty standard fare for everybody that's watching this. So we're done with the brass scorpion. Now STORMHOST silver blended with NURGLING green. So the chest of this guy, I wanted it to be not metallic, like not silver, but it is kind of a green look. So you can see I got this kind of really subtle green effect by blending those two Citadel paints. And the STORMHOST silver is a metallic of their metallic line. So even though that looks green, it does have like a pearlescent look to it. And that's how I got by merging those two paints. and I'm using it for anywhere where he has underscales, as well as his skin flaps under his armpits, you know, for swimming with. Now, SYCORAX bronze, beautiful color. I love this on the fins of the wing here. It goes on nice and looks extremely coppery, like a nice copper wire. It's very thin, but because of the gray Vallejo primer that these Norzul's miniatures come with, it goes on nice and thin, and the primer kind of shines through, so it looks almost transparent. But again, everywhere where there's wing fan, I put this SYCORAX bronze. And that was what I decided. You can see some of that green mix on his webbing at the top. I put the green webbing on the top of the, you know, above the, where it's not SYCORAX bronze. I wish I was just using my cursor to point at it for you, because you can see that, right? Not. Anyways, so SYCORAX bronze in the folds. Again, there's the Stormhost silver, again blended, my blend color. This is for his back frills. Just run right up his spine, and make sure from the spine up you hit it with a nice so he's got it in the underbelly and on his back. Now, WARPLOCK bronze, this is great for toenails, horns, since the bronze dragons have the 8 horns on their head. I use SYCORAX bronze. Did I six? No, I'm sorry, Warpforged bronze. I just posted there. I'm sorry again about my camera angles. I don't have the means to watch myself paint, so I do my best from memory. But you guys see it. Now take a look at this. That's my bronze Bass Scorpion ever, right? Look at the source model. Look how yellow he is. How am I going to get this copper guy to look like that? Well, solution, I added Retributor armor. This is why, on top of that finished Bass Scorpion, I add a light covering of Retributor armor. And see how the yellow from the gold in the Retributor armor, is coming through? And I thought looked really sick with that Brass Scorpion, because now he's still brass, but that gold gives him a yellow tint, and it's more close in line with the monsters manual. And you know, as I paint these stories and paint them to life, and I tell my stories in my episodes, I do want them to be as close to the monsters manual as possible, which limits my creativity sometimes, because I wouldn't mind painting rainbows on these things once in a while too, like some of you guys get to do. But for painting the monsters manual, that looks cool. Now, AGGAROS Dunes, I took that, look at this, oh, look how good that looks. AGGAROS Dunes, it's a contrast paint in the Games Workshop line. I think that looks so sick. I put it right on top of that SYCORAX bronze. It adds a little bit of yellow to it, kind of like the Retributor armor gold did for the Brass Scorpion. And look at how that turned out. I was so happy with that. Kalabite green. Now this is the color I'm going to be painting all of the green. Now, of course, this is the color that made my mom hate this dragon. She was not a fan of the green. And that's okay. But, and you know, to be honest, I don't know that I was either truly, but again, following the player's handbook in that picture I just had up on the screen, this is how these wings are tipped, with this green. And I put a lot on there as a little aggressive, but Kalabite green is the green. See the striping I did on the body, just like the tiger stripes that the dragon in the picture has. And that is pretty much the right green, and technically from a color scheme, I think it works. This dragon's got a lot of positive feedback, so I think most people do like it. Now, I tried to build a little verdigris with, oh yeah, and then this part. So not just on the tips, make sure you spread it out and try to blend it with little dots and patterns, so it's not just, you don't want it to look like a parabola, just a U shape on each of the wings, like a McGarch's from McDonald's. So no, you know, use your brush and tap on, make the shape not so symmetrical, and dots and stripes, and there you go. Finally, I tried to do some REIKLAND FLESHTONE. I skipped a step. So that beautiful underbelly, it's just too flat. You can see, look at how pearlescent it looks in my light there. See that? REIKLAND FLESHTONE is just going to bring it back into the yellow family like the rest of the dragon. It's not too much. It's transparent. It dries. It keeps the pearl effect, but it just makes that body kind of blend in with the rest of the dragon, in my opinion. So there it is. Now the NIHILAKH oxide. This stuff, you know, it's not really meant to go on this thick. I've seen the way you use it in Warhammer. It's just for edging, and as a result, when it dried, it was very mint ice creamy looking and very water stain looked. It looks okay like this, but when it finished, it was a little too much. So I used the Kalina green shade, which is a shade from Games Workshop. I didn't show myself painting it, but in the finished product, which you are about to see, you can see how this mint green, bluey, that's all going to get toned way down once I put the shade on top. So here's the base before it got the water added to it and the waves added to it. You can see the slope, the 2 tones of sand, the space for the dragon, which got popped off the base that came with WizKids, where I used my STYRO cutter to create those little gouges to look like ripples, and the moss, the reindeer moss that I used that will be underwater effectively and look like seaweed. And here you can see the tape, that's just masking tape I used to seal off the water, the realistic water effect. Make sure that you do not play with it for at least 24 to 36 to 48 hours. I made this base started on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so it would be ready to take pictures for the Paint to Life episode. Any later and it wouldn't have been ready. If you peel that masking tape off too early, as someone in the comments I was talking to the other day did, it just ruins it. It has to be dry and cured, okay? I even left it out in the sun. Just make sure you don't put it where it'll get dust on it. Now, those waves, interestingly enough, how did I make those? I used a Woodland Scenics product called Water Effects. I used a junker brush to push down, like it looks like a little bit of a groove in the trench in the middle, and builds it up to look like you know, the breaking, cresting waves on the ocean. So that's how that works. Now that will dry clear. So I was able to take pictures of it while it was still curing in its white form. But once it fully dries, I will need to paint on top of that effect that I've brushed on there, or else it'll just look like clear water, which, you know, will work as well. But I think a little bit of dry brushing of white on the crests and the dips of the waves would look just as cool as it looks in its natural form, which is what I was aiming to do. So that's called realistic water combined with some shade and then some water effects product from Woodland Scenics, and that's how I got the coastal part of the base finished. Here's the finished dragon. Again, you can see that the tips, that oxide has gotten much more subdued. Okay, see how transparent it is? You can see through it. It's got just a tint of blue, not too much blue. You don't want it to be like opaque. Dragon's got a nice bronze tongue and a green eye. And there's that basic, and you can pause any of these to check in the individual parts. So if you have any questions about how I've done any of this stuff, or if I went over a little too fast in my video, please let me know. I know a lot of you are tuning in to watch these painting videos, and some of you have actually emailed me. You've painted along and created Kalina, Lady of the Blue, for yourself, and I love hearing that. I also love hearing about people using these in their D&D games. Someone was just telling me how Mobius is their big bad villain. He was from episode 3 of Paint to Life. So I've got lots of really cool episodes coming up. I'm really excited for the channel and how it's growing. So if you enjoy this, please like. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you have a bunch of nerd friends, share it with them. Anyone you think would get a kick out of watching these painting videos and or the storylines that go with the subjects that we paint. So for now, that's all I have. And a real quick note, again, I never claimed to be the best painter out there. There's a lot of really good painting channels that can teach you some of these tricks that I've learned from myself, and I don't need to recreate their work for them. I just like to paint them to life, bring the story to them, and then use this video to supplement that channel to further explain with this commentary. And I really have enjoyed my interactions with those of you so far, so I'd like to keep growing and continue those interactions into the future. So that's all for now, everyone. I'm GMA Tank signing off, and we'll talk to you next week.